Welcome to the Unapologetic Midlife Podcast. I am your host, Mindi Lobuzzetta, and I am here today with Vanessa Deys, who is here to talk about mental health, grief and loss, and becoming a twin mom at 42. Welcome, Vanessa. I'm so
Thank
happy that you
you.
are here. You're welcome.
Good morning.
So let's kind of dive in. Where to begin with your journey with mental health? I guess that's probably the best place to start.
Yeah. I think mental health is lifelong discovery, right? I mean, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of, I don't need help, but I really need help. And very
Yeah.
fortunately and kind of unfortunately, sort of at a young age, I had been through a lot of loss in our family, extended like grandparents, aunts, uncles. So I was introduced to grieving at a pretty young age. I
Yeah.
think we lost a family member one every year for like 15 years or something like that. And then I was in New York for September 11th for my second day of class my freshman year.
Oh
So
my gosh.
started my kind of jolted adulthood at that age. And then I was in a car accident the following summer. So like things just throughout life have come to me.
Yeah. It's like a snow pile. It just keeps building and building.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like an avalanche, right?
Yep.
And then, there's heartbreak, right? There's relationships that don't work out. Certainly everybody I'm sure is able to commiserate with that, but heartbreak. And then I had a dog, which this is a probably completely different set of users or listeners, but that
Not
nickname.
really. You'd be surprised at the trauma processing I do with people and their pets.
Yeah, it that really threw me for a loop. So that I was living in Los Angeles at the time. My first dog died. I really struggled. And it wasn't because, it's just "Oh, my dog. It's because socially, I
Hmm.
walked with him every day.
Yep.
I was in a big city. He was my connection point to a lot of like strangers and people in our neighborhood. He was my co-pilot. We went on road trips together. We climbed mountains. We
Yep.
swam in oceans. Like he was really my family on that coast. And so when he died, and it was like a very spiritual. I went to the vet after he had been there all day. My ex was telling me, "Hey, give him a night to sleep." And I said, "No, I have to go. I have to go
Yeah.
now. We're going to
You
eat on
know.
the way."
Yep.
When we get there, after he was doing better, the lady that had been there like earlier in the morning, who shouldn't still be there, pulled us into a room. And I was like, "Oh no." I stood up in the middle of her talking and I said, "I have to go right now." And she just looked at me and I was like, "Now, I have to go now." I burst through the doors. I ran down the hall. I hit the triage room. And 1 minute later, my dog died in my arms.
Ugh, like your gut instinct, your attachment to him, like you
Just
you
like
knew.
total
Yeah.
soul to soul. And then from there, I took a 10-day grief trip. So I took myself to Wyoming, Nevada, Montana, Idaho, Utah, drove by myself, spent 10 days with his ashes and a pillow that someone had made me that looks like him, which was a little kooky, but like,
No, little comfort piece, yeah.
yeah, it's right. It's something to hold. And I found that in grief that was really important. I ended up doing that and like having this like spiritual like break open. There were just so many things on that trip that happened. Like, a lone bison appearing out of nowhere, out of the mist, and like
Wow.
just like
A
rainbows.
sign.
It was really like if you're dialed in, you'll see the signs,
Yep.
right?
I
And
wear
that,
mine.
yeah, got mine too. I really started to start deeply diving into my journey then. And then obviously, my dad unfortunately committed suicide at 78 years old, the year before this. So it has been and two miscarriages, right? Somewhere in there.
Lots of loss, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of iterations, but the thing about the mental health journey is that it's been built brick by brick, stone by stone, right? And not one kind of grief. It's like,
Mhm.
some they always say that loss is or grief is basically kind of this symbolic and very visceral process that shows you that you really loved deeply. And
Yeah.
so for me, I find that to be gratitude, right? Like that is my touchstone for life is that if you have something that you have loved so much that you are so deeply affected that you are struggling, that you need mental health therapy, that you need spiritual stuff, whether you have Himalaya salt lamps and crystals and, all the
Good
woo
energy, yeah, yeah.
woo, or
Yep.
it looks like something else. I mean, realistically, all of that is just a showing that you deeply loved something.
Yeah. Another way to word that I've heard, grief is all the love you have to give in the world and no place to put it,
Yeah.
right? Because that person or that thing is gone. And,
Mhm.
your dad, your dog, even your miscarriages, right? Those unborn children, that's no place to put that love. You already loved, even in the early stages of those beings.
Yeah. Yeah. So the journey has been long and a lot of it, you can go off in different pathways, right? We could talk about relationship grief and
Yes.
heartbreak. I was in unfortunately, a domestic violence relationship, and that really shook me to the core. It caused me to start doing EMDR.
Okay. Yep.
And I find like CBT, EMDR is, and I'll let you jump in and tell
Yeah,
people what.
I mean, EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing is a very research-based, effective trauma treatment. And it is, I mean, I tell clients, I went to training for this years ago and I was like, I need to do this myself. It was just because, when you're practicing, because it's a few month long training, when you're
Right.
practicing, you're using some of your own little T's, which are your little traumas, to practice this on each other. And there's
Mhm.
a lot of supervision and stuff around this training if it's done through an accredited resource. And you really start to see the magnitude of how powerful our things are and how interconnected it is. So you having such large amounts of grief early on and at various, I feel like, pivotal stages of your life too, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anything ever prepares you to lose that pet that you're securely attached to and is your travel companion and your life adventure companion and is
Mhm.
just there with you through all these things. And I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's just a pet." So pet loss is disenfranchised grief. It's
Yes.
the grief that is not necessarily accepted
Yep.
by society, and miscarriages are there right there as well. How many women
Absolutely.
do you know have had a miscarriage that, if you were to disclose your own history to, then shares, "Oh yeah, I've experienced this too."
Shocking
And
numbers. Shocking
it's
numbers.
insane. Yeah, and we need to have, in my opinion, and I know you're pretty vocal about this, we need to have more conversations about disenfranchised grief because you still need to process it and you need support through it.
And I think too, the pet loss has really been. I ended up writing a book about it. I
Do you
haven't
remember that?
published
Yes,
it.
yes.
It's called "It's Not Just a Fucking Sorry Everybody
No,
Dog."
swear away. Let it out.
Um,
This is unapologetic. We're not here
and
to
I
make
I wrote
apologies.
it right when it happened. I wrote it along the road of my grief trip. So I was pulling in and out of like pockets at Yellowstone and writing this as I was, like, watching the wolves run by, right? Just this is
Oh,
very, like, whoa, existential
surreal.
crisis slash trying to channel all my grief, and that's how I process my grief. I'm a writer, not by trade, I'm attorney by trade, but what I do at home when I really need to get into myself is I write, and so I
Yep.
wrote a book about it because there were so many people like, "Oh, it's just a dog." And I'm like, "How can you don't get to choose
Who you
how you
love.
love, right?"
Yeah.
And that, of course, one day when you have your own kids, you'll understand. And guess what? Spoiler alert, guys, I have 2 kids. And I still that grief gets me
Yeah.
on a daily basis, you know? And
Yeah.
and obviously I've got my dad, which is now
Yep. Now another layer of grief.
ratchet
Right.
that up.
Yeah. You were very close with your dad. You
My dad
2
went,
had a great relationship.
yeah, business partners, one of my best friends. I mean, challenging, right? Father, daughter.
And he was an attorney too, correct? Right? So following in dad's footsteps in a way. Yep. Yeah.
And we, as kids, my parents argued, probably at certain points should have gotten divorced, but didn't, stayed together. And so there's some trauma, complex trauma through childhood of
Yeah.
just being in a household where people can't regulate their feelings, right? And that was something that during EMDR I realized I was holding so much pain from my childhood.
Yeah.
And that was really informing the choices I was making for the men that I would be in relationships with, how I would handle my stress, how it
Mhm.
felt, where it was in my body. I was doing a lot of reptilian brain going back to sitting in a closet listening to my parents fighting. That
Yeah.
would inform how I was with my partners, how I trusted them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, deep, deep, deep healing stuff in the relationship market.
We tend to repeat the patterns that we witness as children in those 0 to 9, those critical developmental years, and
Mhm.
so many people don't understand that. I didn't understand that myself until I was an adult. I will say my current fiance because I did get engaged,
Yeah.
is my healthiest relationship I've ever had in my life, and I think it's that personal growth that I've done. I
Right.
joke, "Oh, I wish I would have met you earlier," but I don't think I would have been ready for him earlier,
You
which
really you attract someone that fits your wound, fits
yeah.
someone else's wound.
Mhm.
That's really
Yeah.
what it
Yep.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is, and now I know you and your husband, you 2 had crossed paths earlier, right?
We
So
started dating at 13 years old.
oh my gosh, you've known him that long. I did
Oh,
not
no.
know that.
No,
Okay.
actually, we met at 5. We started
Oh,
playing soccer
wow.
when we were 5 years old, and then middle school, boyfriend, girlfriend, and then went to high school prom together, did it on and off through, you know, college,
Adulthood, yep.
law school, moved to Los Angeles, back here, and then, a couple years ago, he walks into a place where I never am at an hour that I'm never there, and just looks at me and goes, "And
Here
that
we
was it.
are.
Now we are down 1 dad, up 2 kids, a house, the marriage,
2
been all over the
dogs,
world, 2
right?
dogs."
2 dogs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Now did he go to law school too? So you met, like, again in law school? Okay. Okay, you were in law school. Okay.
yeah, he was just local.
Okay.
Um, but
But
yeah, it's
bringing you
wild.
back to your roots, like, I don't know, I
Mhm.
feel like I know you've lived in LA, you've lived in other places, but I feel like coming back here, like, I don't know, do you feel like this is where you're supposed to be? Like,
I was definitely supposed to be here for the time I was here. So I left
yeah.
LA 5 months before COVID hit. And what a journey that and like a shock, right? I came home and moved into Clarence, which is for anyone who doesn't know, kind of a little bumbly, right? It's in the fields.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some like kind of busy parts and it's not far away from like suburbia. But
Right. Some parts is rural for sure. Yeah.
yeah, I came home and actually the guy I had been dating in Los Angeles, I left because he had been struggling with alcohol addiction.
Mm.
And I woke up one morning and I was like, I can't live like this every day, walking on eggshells and like feeling like I'm constantly scratching and clawing at the door for him to come home because I have insecure attachment, right? I'm
Okay.
anxious attachment.
Yep.
And he was very much, I need my distance to
He's
drink.
pushing you away. Yeah. To his first love was drinking.
His first love was drinking, and I just pictured him sitting at a bar by himself at, like, 65, 70 years old, drinking those long necks down while I'm at home with, like, grandkids and kids, and I just was like, "Ooh, that just doesn't feel right," and this
Yeah.
person isn't acknowledging their pain, and, like, you can't force someone to be on your
Nope.
journey, which is, like, the biggest thing that you find about relationship grief and about just relationships in general is, like, you can be on the bridge, but if someone's not gonna meet you halfway or dance with you on the bridge so that it's equal, right? So it's
Yep.
not like this
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
You can't force them. And
Yep.
specifically with alcohol addiction and any kind of addiction, right? Like they have
Yep.
to come to that. There's the codependency, which I learned I had, very,
Mhm.
terribly learned on the
Well,
second.
we're also conditioned as women to
Yes.
it was our mother's generation, find a nice man,
Yeah.
find a rich man, find this, find that. I mean, we know why, certain women may have curtain or codependency. I
Yeah.
feel like it's ingrained in us, but somewhere along the way, you learned a little bit about that.
He was the second guy that I had dated that had an addiction to alcohol. And in that too, like my grandfather was an alcoholic, right? So
Okay.
my mom becomes an adult child of an alcoholic, right? Then
Yep.
it goes on down the line. It just,
Yep.
when alcohol is in your family, codependency usually rides firmly along in the passenger seat. And
Yep.
so you attract those people.
Yep.
You become that yourself at certain times.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and that's like a whole thing, realizing like even during COVID, I mean, plenty of people I'm sure can identify with this. I mean, people were just drinking excessively, right?
Yep.
Because there's
It
nothing else
was
to do.
yeah, we I laugh thinking back at, like, the memes of everybody's recycling bin filled with alcohol, drinks at noon, like, I wasn't doing that, I was, like, working like crazy, but I remember very vividly that that was, like, a thing that people did.
I I didn't shy away from my wine,
Mhm.
and it started to affect a relationship around me. And they, it wasn't like we weren't getting up at 10 a.m. and drinking the
High
whole day.
functioning, yeah, doing what you need to do, still
Yeah,
showing up for your commitments,
I
yeah.
was still working. I mean, I worked virtually almost the entire time, and I ran my dad's in my office as well. And so I was actually traveling to my office in Lockport, working and running that by myself as well. And so I would come home and have a glass or two of wine at night. But the other person was at my home. It's not my current husband, was at home and they would be drinking or they would be
Mhm.
bottled up because they were stuck
Mhm.
at home. And it just that alcohol added another level, whether it was actually that someone was drinking alcohol or that the other person thought the drinking was affecting that person,
Yep.
not just the frustration with the whole system, resentment and realizing what was going on in the world and just depression, right? Everybody was kind of
Yeah.
was
Oh my
tough.
god. I think everybody was terrified, everybody was depressed. I remember just watching the news, waiting and waiting and waiting for that, like, resuming some sense of normalcy, and it didn't happen. I know I kinda just got a case of the fuckets and was like, "Alright, I need to live my life." I flew with my kids by myself to Colorado, we rented a house in the mountains, like, we were living our best life that summer. I also got divorced that summer, like, just I think a lot of truths came out during that time, right? There was social media and the craziness going on in the world, but we were all forced to sit with ourselves. We were forced to be with ourselves. And
Yep.
I remember at that time was when I started asking myself a lot of the hard truths of like, okay, what kind of life do you want to be living?
Right.
And are you on track for that? Is this what you envision?
Mhm.
So, how did COVID kind of transform you a little bit?
Well, I mean, part of it is the relationship I was in
Ended, right? During COVID because you moved back?
did,
Okay, or
and that
right
person
before?
was living with me. So there I was in a relationship from Los Angeles. That relationship ended, and then I met someone, maybe 6 months later, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I guess I was home maybe the year before COVID because I bought my condo just before.
Okay.
So I was home 1 year before, met this other person after, being single for almost a year. It took me almost a year.
Which is good though. It gave you a little time to, like, take a break.
Well, and I realized the alcoholic piece, I kept finding it, right? And so
Mhm.
I started to do some talk therapy with a
Mhm.
therapist that didn't really fit. And this is like, hey, everybody's out there who doesn't believe in therapy. Sometimes it's just the therapist and you don't have
Yeah.
the right chemistry.
Yeah, and that's okay. I always tell people that this isn't about me as a therapist. This is about you and what you need. And if I'm not a good fit for you, that's okay. I don't take that
Yeah.
personal because therapy is personal. It has to be
Yeah.
personal. And you
Absolutely.
have to have a therapeutic alliance. And if that's not there, it's not going to be effective.
Yeah. And I had started talk therapy. She actually started EMDR with me, but she was I I don't wanna say ineffective because there were some very effective sections, but she would sometimes leave me in the middle of processing, which
Ooh.
is, like,
Ooh,
dangerous,
no.
right?
Yeah, yeah. No, we got to bring you down before, even if we have to pick up next session, there has to be a container. There
Yeah,
has to be a body scan. There's got to be something to get you to the here and now. Yeah.
yeah, so that was tough. So that all happened. I spent a year alone, met a guy who was amazing on the surface, but guess what? Lo and behold, had the father wound, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so was very, like, insecure, needed to fix everything, needed to be your savior, and I'm the opposite where
You don't
I
need to be rescued. Yeah.
rescued. In fact, I need to be able to stand firmly in my femininity and
Yep.
have you stand in your masculinity
Yes.
without degrading me, right? Like it
Yes.
needs to be that I feel safe and you feel safe. And we just didn't get there in that relationship. But COVID, living in a small place with him really brought out both
Ooh.
wounds and in an
Yeah.
explosive way. And so, any drinking was just it
Not
was
healthy.
fuel. It
Yeah.
was fuel.
Yep.
And I was also, like, processing as you're saying, like, you're really sitting with yourself. So during that time, I was running a business that at the time I didn't want. I'd just been back from LA for a year-ish, year and a half, and
Yep.
it was my dad's business for 40 plus years, and he didn't wanna close it down, right? And this is, I think, part of what contributed to his deterioration, in the long run is, like, it's a family place, right? It's a family
Mhm.
building. He had been known for that job,
Mhm.
was probably the love of his life, which also will, if we go
It's
back and
hard.
hey, let's look at all the things that filled Vanessa in her childhood. A
Yep.
building during COVID was as important to my dad as his kids were. The
Yeah.
business, right? So, and it's not to fault him if we go into his upbringing.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
blueprint, and unless you're willing to change the game generationally, you just take that blueprint and you move forward,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You have to be willing to do something different than what was done to you, but I think also the generations basically before our generation didn't have access to what we've had access to, and even
No.
our kids are gonna have access to things that we definitely didn't have access to, so
Yeah.
I always applaud these young folks who come to me in their 20s, and I'm like, Like, be so proud of yourself that you're here because this is hard. It's hard to like face your own shit. It's hard to face your hard truths. It's
Yeah.
hard to say, I have insecure attachment. Like,
Yeah.
clients don't come to me and say that. They come to me and are panicking because they have this separation anxiety with their partner, and it's like, okay, we need to talk about this because understanding that and like why you have that and why maybe you've carried that through generations from things that you've been through helps you to then have a better relationship, not only with your partner but with yourself too, right? Because creating that calm inside of you helps you to then, I think, have that ripple effect onto the relationships and the people around you.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Absolutely.
as you're doing this healing and working with dad and the building and stuff, are you kind of recognizing some of dad's stuff?
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
I think, like, I had the wonderful, um, and experience, opportunity, gift of having not only a close relationship with my parents pretty much my entire life, but when I came home from Los Angeles, of the siblings was the one that was here and present, right? So
Yep.
I got to witness and sit with and hold space for not only my dad and mom during COVID,
Mhm.
but then my dad as he got sick. So just a quick sidebar for everybody. My dad at the end of COVID ended up having a bleed. It was a digestive tract bleed. And we spent 10 days in the ICU, 11 days in the
Wow.
ICU, between here in Kenmore and in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
He didn't have the test that we needed. He was bleeding so badly that he had, at that point, I think 8 or 9 blood transfusions.
Wow, that's a lot. Just to give an example, during my leukemia, the most I would get would be like 2 at a time. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not only a lot, but also everybody during that time, the blood had all,
The
everybody
supply
had
was limited.
supply was limited, like, all sorts
Yeah.
of fun things happened at the same time. So we ended up, the doctors here said, "Hey, we need to do the surgery that was a little bit draconian," and we said, "We're not comfortable with that." So we took our chances and put him in an ambulance, took him all the way to Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And during COVID, right? So one person's allowed to be in the room, and
Yep.
I'm running our office from the ICU with him in Pittsburgh. Crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then my dad got sick. So that wasn't even a sick. That was like the precursor to him leaving the hospital. We don't know, like, I immediately tried to get him into talk therapy, right?
Mhm. Talk about this. Yep. Process this. Yeah.
Because he
Yep.
really did start to struggle. And simultaneously, his doctor gave him a sleeping medication that starts with an A. I won't go into it, but
Okay.
not great for your brain, guys. You should
Yeah.
really read those
Yeah.
black box warnings, really read what your medication does to you. And I said, please don't put him on this. This is a bad idea. And woke up at 4 in the morning and he was like, the water's on at the office. You have to go. The building's going to blow up. And I was like, what?
He's in like a psychosis kind of trance like state in the middle of the night. Yeah, I think I know what he was on. I'm pretty sure I was on it too at one point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So it
People
went
have crazy reactions to
Yeah,
that
and
one.
like sleepwalking, like all sorts of,
Mhm. Yep.
depression, all sorts of things. So that sort of evolved, right? The lack of sleep in the hospital, getting on that medication, sort of like he didn't have
And he's
found
how old at this point? 77, 78. Okay, yeah, so he's not 20, right, yeah,
no. He didn't have foundations of self-care, right? He didn't
yeah.
My mom, who's almost 80, goes to the gym 3 or 4 days a week and trains with a physical trainer,
Wow, that's so
right?
awesome.
She travels the world, she has book club, wine club, movie club, she golfs, she does all these things. My
Lots
dad
of
didn't
hobbies.
do those things. Yeah, that's
He
so
worked, he worked. That was probably his hobby, which isn't
and
a
that was
hobby.
the when years ago, I said, the thing about dad is like when he stops working, his brain is gonna go. I said this, Mindy. I said this years ago, and
I
I said,
believe you.
read it.
Yeah, yeah,
This is where it's gonna take us. And it took us. And it took us more violently and more traumatically than we could ever imagine. If people knew my dad, he's a small town guy who prided himself on having a great reputation. My great grandfather built our town,
wow,
um, built the factory that employed, part of half of Western New York,
wow,
in the 1800s and 1900s. So you know, he really came from this family where the most important thing was how does everybody else see you, right? Your
mm,
reputation was the most important thing. So money was important. How you presented yourself, what you drove, where you lived, all the things were really important. And when what was called pseudo dementia popped into
mhm,
our lives,
mm,
and pseudo dementia being different than dementia in that it's based in depression. From what I understand from our scans and conversation and treatment at Strong and in various hospitals, dementia in and of itself can manifest in a billion different ways. His happened to be based in depression. So the worse his depression was, the worse his dementia would get. That created this like kind of bifurcated medication need for both antipsychotics and also an antidepressant.
Wow. Yeah.
Sometimes antidepressant was an SSRI,
Yep.
which dementia patients, especially elderly, can cause psychosis. So the
Yeah.
combination of medicine really messed with his brain. And I think, over a period of almost 2.5 years, we would get him on the right medication and he would do well,
Yep.
right? And then winter would hit. So seasonal affect would
Yep.
come in.
Yep.
And
Is
then
anybody checking his like vitamin D, his B12? Like, are they monitoring things that we know are critical for us Western New Yorker, Northern
that's a great
Hemisphere
question.
people? Because I'm big on all that stuff. We're not getting it from our food, and he's 76. He's probably not getting it either, you know?
No. And the thing is too, it's like in another city, like
In a
if
b-
we were in California, right? Like there's
Yeah.
all sorts of things that you can do. I mean, I had people that I spoke to, a girlfriend of mine was doing a documentary on it's probably gross to a lot of people, but like fecal matter transplants, right? Where you
No,
take
no, I've heard about it.
right?
Yep.
Healthy gut biome of one person, put it
Hmm.
into a person with depression, anxiety. It drops their inflammation, which
Yep.
everything is based in inflammation in your body. Drops the inflammation in your brain, drops the depression, right?
Yep. Our
Drops cortisol,
gut
all of it.
has to be healthy. Like an unhealthy gut means an unhealthy brain, an unhealthy GI tract. It's all interconnected.
And when you look at my dad's journey there, it was his gut went and then
Yep.
his brain went. And
Yep.
I tried very hard and I'm the hippy dippy kid of all
Yeah.
family, and I'm like, "Can we get him off this medication, and can we take him out somewhere where he can float in the ocean, and can we get him, FMT, and let's talk about vitamin D, let's talk about red
Yep.
light therapy. Hey,
Yep.
how talk therapy and EMDR,
Yep. Somatic work. Yep. Let's work on the body. Yep.
yeah. If we have to go to Costa Rica and kick you into the jungle with a shaman, let's do it."
Yep. Have at it. Yeah.
Generationally, my dad was not there, right?
Yeah.
If he had been a little more open, microdosing might have been incredibly powerful for him.
Yeah.
Anything. I mean, you're obviously much more well versed in this, but like now we're back to the LSD microdosing, right? We're on to ketamine, we're on to mushrooms.
Psilocybin. Yep. All of it. Yeah. Laws are shifting. And this research is specifically on psychedelics, LSD, psilocybin, ketamine. Ketamine's what's legal in New York State right now. But right now, a couple of my colleagues are prepping to do work with psilocybin clinical trial with a pharmaceutical company that's tied in with Roswell, and it's going to help cancer patients. It's going to also extend into those with ALS, MS, and Parkinson's. So now we're getting into those neurological disorders. At some point, I think it's on the table to do work with caregivers. And some of the results that have already come out with this company's current clinical trials has been very promising. One specifically working with mothers with postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And it was very promising. And it also importantly did not interfere with lactation, and that's really
Wow.
important as a nursing mom,
Huge.
right? Where a lot of antidepressants, I think there's like one or two that you can be on. But even then, it's like, what does that look like 30 years from now? So it's kind of crazy. I think antidepressants have a place for certain things, but I also think it's not for everybody. Just like I don't
Yeah.
think psychedelic work is going to be for everybody, right? I mean, but the microdosing I'm really interested in because you're not getting the visuals and the psycho.
Hallucination.
Yeah, yeah, it's very different, and there's been a lot of promising results. One came out of Australia for dementia and psilocybin. And I know if you're into biohacking and follow that Brian Johnson, he
Oh yeah.
had his ego death dose that he had, but he's so studied. His results are so important because he
Yeah.
has been followed so much.
Yeah.
And to have completely no inflammation in your body post doing that is really something. You see, all the stuff that I post about women midlife as we hit perimenopause, which is a freaking blast, and the inflammation, right? So, like hormones, I've seen men who might not have good levels of testosterone. So, like, kind of getting into men's health too. There's oftentimes I'll work with men and I'm like, when have you had your testosterone checked? You need to rule out medical things. I'm not diagnosing, but
Right.
I'm strongly encouraging you to have a conversation with your primary care physician and just make sure your levels are okay.
Yeah.
Because with chemicals in our food, with chemicals in our detergents, I mean, it's wild all the disruptions that we're exposed to, and all of it plays a role.
It's funny because you have this background from the cancer
Yeah.
part of your life, right? Which is always integrated into everything that you do.
Absolutely, it is. It has to be. It's led me to where I'm at and the work I do today.
Yep. And then on my side, I have both my dad's dementia. I ended up while my dad was in the hospital for dementia related stuff, not for the first part, I ended up getting C. diff. So I
Oh
had a surgery for something I've been complaining to doctors about for years. And I was like, hey, this is really bugging me. Finally, they're like, well, we'll take it out just in case. And it ended up being a tumor.
my
It was
god.
benign, thank God. But from the surgery, I ended up getting C. diff and I ended
Being
up
in
in
the hospital.
for 4 days.
Yep, yep,
And when you get C. diff, you have to completely reroute your gut, right? Like
yep,
it is everyday kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi,
yep, your
fermented
fermented
food,
foods. Yep,
not sugar. You're
yep,
taking endocrine disrupting candles,
yep,
detergent, liquid detergent, detergent for your dishwasher. Like
yep.
everything that you do goes out the window. And then coming to my age, and I probably, if I hadn't had C. diff, probably wouldn't have gotten to the point in pregnancy that I got, right? Because this all
You
led
reset
me
your gut.
to reset my gut, reset my body, reset my brain. The loss of my dad also. My husband and
Yeah,
I had had a miscarriage actually 4 or 5 months before my dad died. So
wow.
we went boom, 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 boom with grief, right? And because of it, it had been my second miscarriage in so many years, and the doctor was like, well, we're going to give you this $1 million test that we don't order until after you've had multiple miscarriages, which is bullshit. And this is my argument for women's health. Let's take that
Right.
history.
Let's be preventative instead of why does it gotta be so much loss? Right, yeah.
Simple test told
And
me,
that causes trauma too on the
oh god,
uterus if you need a DNC. I mean, there's so many layers to this.
so many risks that come from miscarriage and from all of those things. It was a simple test to tell me that I had a clotting disorder. I've had it my whole entire life.
Imma tell you right now how many women find that out through
Yep,
infertility because
yep.
they're getting tested.
Yep, and they will not pay for the test, and they will not give you the test unless and until you've had multiple miscarriages.
Which is also terrifying if you do get pregnant somehow without the medication
Yes,
and go into delivery, especially with twins, which is already putting you into a high risk category for
yes.
bleeding out if potentially something does not go well.
It was a wild ride for me for that specific reason
Huh.
because as
Yeah.
soon as they found that, so I have a hole in my heart. I've had it since I was born. It was just my door didn't shut all the way.
Okay.
And so probably in 2014, I had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, which is basically like a mini stroke.
Okay.
And um, I never knew why. And I went to UCLA, did a bunch of studies, found out that bubbles could go from one side of my heart to the other and pass through to my brain without
Because of the hole.
because the hole. So all of these things being related, then when I got on blood thinner for pregnancy, which is what they put you on for anti-clotting, they put me on
Oh,
blood,
they do. Okay. So you want to be on. Okay. Okay.
but there's two kinds. There's two
Yes.
kinds of blood thinner. So you're on one shot every single day while your belly is growing
Hmm. Hmm.
until the last 6 weeks or however long before pregnancy. And then they put you on the other kind that they can reverse in case you need to have the blockers to be able
Hmm.
to go into labor yourself. But high risk with twins because I am geriatric for
Right.
pregnancy.
Right. We're over 35. So that puts you into that category, unfortunately. Yes.
I'm 42 years old, carrying twins. I've had a mini stroke, and I also have this clotting disorder. So I'm on anticoagulants on top of all of these other risk factors.
My God.
And it was just this, you got introduced to this whole completely different universe because you're having to think about, hey, I'm growing these two beautiful babies. What's this medicine doing to me? What's it going to do
Yeah.
at my birth? Will it cause me to bleed out? I had the most brilliant doctor that I could possibly want in pregnancy. I
Good.
switched actually at 15 weeks. I went into my doctor's office that I had been going to for years. And I walked by my doctor and I hadn't had a single appointment with her yet. It was
Okay.
only with the text. And she didn't acknowledge me. And I was very
So
off put.
you're high risk, you should be meeting with maternal fetal medicine, all these things. Is that even happening yet?
No, I was only there, I think, for the second sonogram at that
Okay,
point. I
okay.
had been with her for so many losses and through so much of the journey that you would think just like a hello, right? And it
Yeah,
was
right.
it was probably a one-off thing. She was probably talking about something really important, but in that moment, my body was like, "No, this isn't the right
I'm
place for
done. Yeah, I'm
you.
done.
It's not the
Yeah.
right." So I ended up switching to this doctor who was brilliant and was so not only formidable in the OR, he was phenomenal. They ran that room like literally
A
like an
well-oiled machine, yeah.
it was like, "Look, this is what it was." He goes, "We actually call our training the pit, and we do like an ask our times run through."
Wow. That's great.
But he was also just so aware of where there is a place for Western medicine and where there's a
Mhm,
place for Eastern medicine.
mhm,
He very much supported my acupuncture. He supported my going to therapy. The
mhm.
eating piece of it, just
Yep.
being really aware of how everything affects your pregnancy, stress levels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, stress levels are huge, right? I mean, stress will literally kill you. So
Stress.
doing all these things are meant to help reduce your stress. Stress
Yeah.
also prohibits you from absorbing nutrients. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so many layers to this. So I think a lot of doctors too, they don't get training in nutrition and in holistic type healing and for him to be supportive and be like, "Yes, do that. That's great."
Pride manner too.
Well, that's the other layer of it. Some doctors are brilliant, but they do not have good bedside manners, and clients will leave you. Patients will leave
Yeah.
you because of
I
that.
did. I did. I left and I went to him and he was brilliant. And it really reinstilled my faith in the medical community in general. I think my dad, right before his death, I mean, we'd been through, as I was telling you before, kind of multiple doctors, multiple
Mhm,
fields of study, neurology, let's go to here, let's go here. And really nothing worked. My dad also, again, was not proactive in his own health. He would
mhm.
eat kale and like follow his new newsletter and do like brain puzzles, but all in all, he wouldn't get out and exercise. He was not
Yeah.
in touch with doing alternative medicine, believing that there were other things that could help. And inevitably, before he passed away, they put him on another SSRI after he had been taken off of it and put on just a plain antidepressant, which really helped for a very long time. They put
Okay.
him back on the SSRI and he was dead within 4 weeks
Oh
by
my god.
suicide. So it was that fast, you know,
Yeah.
this because
Yeah.
personally, they were the last thing in the world that they would ever do because it's embarrassing and humiliating and not in line with this.
It's not yeah, in line with his characteristics and his morals and his values and what he believed in. Oh,
And also, like, like, this medicine kinda it came in and the doctors were prescribing things and they weren't as holistic is great. Holistic is really looking at the whole person, all the
mhm.
systems, trying to maybe stay more away from the pharmaceutical, like, "Hey, black box warning for this is, yes, this might help you process sugar better, but it's also going to cause you to have psychotic thoughts and maybe kill
Yeah.
yourself."
There's a million side effects, right? Everybody's seen a commercial or
Yep.
everybody's gotten a pamphlet when they've picked something up at, the pharmacy.
Yeah.
I see things pop up, obviously doing this, everything's listening to us all the time, but on social media and it's always like, okay, in Switzerland, doctors are prescribing outdoors.
Yeah.
Like I
Japan.
yeah, I have these conversations and anybody comes to me with depression, anxiety, the best thing you could do is go for a walk within reason. Obviously, know your limitations, but have to physically move your body.
Yeah.
Vacuuming your whole house, that counts. Do it. You have to move your body and it activates your body's antidepressant system.
Yeah.
It's built in. Yes, sometimes we need some supplements and stuff to help with that, but I've never gone for a walk and afterwards been like, wow, I really wish I didn't do that.
Yeah. And I will say this, post you would think we went through this fertility journey, did all the tests, found out what all the problems were, and then, the doctor's like, "Hey, we'll put you on medication if you want to start trying now." I was like, "Look, honestly, my dad just committed suicide. My body's not ready because my heart isn't ready."
Yeah.
And we spent, 6 or 7 months just, wetting and processing
Yep.
what had happened with my dad. Instead, when our honeymoon came home and went to the doctor and said, "Hey, there's your baby." And we're like, "Oh, that's so," we're so excited. And she goes, "And there's your other one." And I said, "Excuse me?"
Oh,
She said, "There's your other one." And I said, "Excuse me? What's in my
BA.
husband?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you." And she goes, "No, no, it's because you're older. Your fallopian tubes throw out all your eggs to get you pregnant to increase your chances." So women over a certain age, it's
Good to
absolutely
know, right?
increases your chance of having multiples. I don't have twins. They don't run in my family. They don't run in his family. My older sister has them. They went through a lot of years of fertility treatments. We didn't do any of the treatments, and we just
This was just
kept
naturally how it happened, yeah.
yeah.
It gives me goosebumps, it's like the signs of just dad saying, "Okay, here you go. After
Yeah.
everything you've been through, it's your time." And
But I can
obviously, I like to, like, just put in there too, your babies are healthy, they're
happy.
beautiful, you got
They're
one of each,
I
it's
got one of
like,
each.
they're thriving.
And they're, it's I took all of the steps along this healing journey, mental health, the heartbreaks, the grief trips I took myself on alone, the
Yeah,
mountains, the
yep.
bathing in the forest, the sitting in the mineral waters, the hippy dippy duty bullshit that I'm sure I've done along the way.
I'm gonna say spiritual journey because this is what
Spiritual.
this is. Yeah,
It is.
yeah,
Yeah. And then when my dad died, I felt I was really it didn't come easily, right? Like it was still grief, so incredibly painful. Sitting with the death of a father in that way after there had been micro and not so micro abandonments throughout your life really showed
yeah,
me where my relationship choices came, right? And this the ultimate abandonment
yep,
almost
yeah,
to a child is a parent committing suicide because it's not natural
mhm,
for a parent to go that way, and I
yeah,
understand why. I understand his career was built in doing estate planning for people, and part of our language in our healthcare proxy is, if I am at a place of such deterioration that I should not have, a meaningful quality of life and it's
mhm,
irreversible,
mhm,
I do not want to be resuscitated. But
mhm,
when that is the practice language that you are in front of every day and your
yep,
brain isn't working,
mhm,
it really, I think, mixed with the medicine and took him to that place. As a daughter who also does estate planning and knows what he was doing and saw him on a daily basis and has been on a planning and health journey,
yep.
spiritual journey, I was able to step into maybe not the ground floor or the basement of grief, but I already had scaffolding and plaster on the wall
Yeah,
and a roof over top. I knew the body I was stepping into, and the choices that we've made in having our babies and being healthy for that has also been part of that, right? I knew where I was in my grief when we first, kind of started going to the doctor. I knew I wasn't ready. And
yep,
even now with my kids, like I said to the doctor, and we did couples therapy too, right?
mhm,
Before we had our babies, before
which
we
is
got
good.
married.
This is a big thing. I always tell people, like, I've survived cancer twice, but raising kids, and I love my boys, but raising kids is the hardest thing I've ever done. It
Yeah.
will challenge you in ways you didn't know you could be challenged. Another layer of this at 42, you're in perimenopause. So now you're dealing with all those things and
Yeah.
birthing twins. That's hard on your body. Like, we don't talk about that,
Honestly.
but it
Woo.
is.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot, and it's a miracle that we can do this, and it's I'm sure that there's gratitude there, but multiple things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
So now you're going through sleep deprivation, you've got twins, like, it's real easy for the most amazing of relationships to be challenged
Yeah.
amidst this journey, right? And
Yeah.
I always normalize that because it's not about not having ruptures. That's gonna happen. It's the repair and the reconnect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the repair. And also it's knowing yourself, like talking to our couples therapist before and our doctor, I said, I am most worried about the postpartum. I have been
Mhm.
depressed in law
Yep.
school. I felt suicidal. It's part of why I did a lot of work on myself during that time and up until this point. And so I knew going into postpartum, I had a doula. I
Mhm.
wasn't messing around. Like I had
I want support.
I mean, research. I
Yep.
had my village. I knew that I wanted to do certain, you know, I did the placenta pills. I wouldn't recommend them. They are disgusting. But there's some research that say that it helps with postpartum. But I got out and walked every day.
Yep.
I wrote when I needed to.
Yep.
Even still, I have nights, and it only happens with my son. My
Okay.
daughter sleeps in another room, but I go to put him in his crib at night,
He
and
just
it's
there's
the
always one.
yeah, it's the bending over in the crib, like, to set him down in the crib for some reason. I tell my husband, it's like it takes the lid off of the grief of the death of my dad, and I
Mm.
end up crying on my son as I'm
Oh.
putting him to sleep because you're
Oh.
sitting there in the silence, right? And there's, like
Yeah.
you have this being that has come from your bones and your blood, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you build them. They still they're combo fed, so they're when I pump, I am literally pumping my bones out of my body to feed my
Yep.
children, and you
Yeah.
feel it. Your body is weak, you're tired, as you said, But it's also like this miracle. I'm holding this small miracle that couldn't have happened but for my healing post death of my dad, right?
Yeah.
You have to look at where you are in your life and understand every single ounce of it, the heartbreak, the elation, the
And feel
laughter,
it. You
tears.
have to feel it. You've gotta be willing to feel it. I think
Yep.
that's the biggest thing with trauma is, like, you can't get through it if you don't feel it. You
Feel
gotta
it,
you
be accountable and
Yep.
embody it, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and that's, that mental health journey, once you learn to trust yourself and you feel your intuition, and once you start to heal and you see why you've made the choices you've made, you can pull those things with
Mhm.
you for the things that you need along the way.
Mhm.
But you had to, as you said, you couldn't have been where you are for your soon to be
No.
husband 10
Yeah.
years because you weren't the Mindy that you are now, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Like, laugh because I'm like, if my 20-year-old self could see where I'm at today, like I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing a lot of things. I was, terrified to do private practice, even though that was what I wanted, right? It's like leaving for the stability of that weekly paycheck or whatever. It's taking a chance on yourself. And she wasn't confident. I think there was a lot of confidence I lacked. And then when I went through my cancer journey, I mean, my confidence literally went out the window. I couldn't have biological children but had cancer twice. Like nobody was stepping foot into that disaster. And I think that I wasn't listening to what I needed. I liked what other people liked. And I needed to identify what it was that I wanted and what I needed and to take care of myself. I am so sick of living in a world where women are called selfish or crazy for having needs.
Same.
I have no problem. Here's the nice girl going out the window telling people to fuck off who have a problem with that. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves and even if men are helping and they're involved, we are still the ones carrying a lot of decision making with our households, managing our households. We're carrying the invisible loads
Mental
that
load.
are not on our partner's plates. And it's no fault to them. It's very conditioned for us, right?
Yeah.
And there's things that they do that we don't do, but it's just widely documented and studied that women carry the invisible load. It is what it is.
My mother-in-law and I were talking about this. I spend 150 minutes a day pumping.
That's a
Multiplied by
lot of time. That's a
multiplied
lot
by
of time. That's a
4,
workout. That's a walk. That's a reading a book. Like that's extra sleep. Like, yeah,
27 days of pumping a
a
month.
month. That's a lot.
And now extrapolate that across a year.
Yep.
That is just pumping. That is
Yep.
not feeding in the middle of the night. That is not any of the other things that you do for childcare, right? Especially at
Yep.
this stage when they're little. But as they get older, it's all the other things. It's running to all the appointments and all the sports
It's
and,
just different stuff, right? Like it gets easier. I do say that once you start getting consistent sleep, it feels a little easier to manage. But once I was getting consistent sleep, I was definitely in perimenopause,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
there's new challenges. And I don't want to say you're an older mom, but by
I'm old
standards
enough.
of fertility, we're older moms. Like, so that poses new challenges. And I don't think I would have been a good mom at 20 because I think I was just still figuring life out and I was busy going out. And that was kind of my priority. So I'm glad I didn't have kids young. But also, I had a little more stamina back then.
I feel that now. My son, this is very obviously controversial. My daughter sleeps like a log. My son
Okay.
doesn't sleep in the crib, so he co-sleeps with me.
Listen, I get it. I was there. I had one that would not sleep in the crib, and you just got to get sleep. You got to do what you got to do.
We try. We try.
We
We either
tried.
we
Yep.
we have 2 cribs, we have, like, all the things. He just will not. His moral reflex is really strong. He was
Hmm.
also the one of
Is
the
he
2.
colicky?
Not really, no, but he was of the 2 of them, the one that had to get glucose checked every couple of hours when he was born because he was so small when he came out.
Okay.
But they came out at, like, almost 13 pounds total. So they were big
Yeah,
for
I wanna point out you carried them pretty much term because I
I
remember at
carried
the end,
him
you're like, "Oh,
one
Lord."
and a half hours before my 40-week due date. One
How
and a half.
how 1.5 hours before your actual due date, you carried
Yep,
them. That
and
is
they
I wanna
promised
give you
me
a round of applause.
only 36 weeks. You're never gonna go past 36 weeks. You're never gonna carry these twins to
They don't
40
know
weeks.
you.
and on my kids. Who are very comfortable. It's funny, all of these things, the stamina, older moms, like give yourself credit. It's a hard journey, but it's also a beautiful journey.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
as you're saying, like, I wouldn't have been the mom that I am now. I can sit with my kids screaming in my face now and just understand that this has nothing to do with me
Mhm.
and everything to do with
Not
their
take it.
journey, right?
Yep. Not take it personal.
Don't take it personally, but also like honor where they are. They're so close to the source still, right? Like we took my son and daughter outside as soon as they were born. I had them out at
You go for walks, you go do
yeah,
things. Like, I love that you guys still enjoy life. Like, you're not
we
just
do.
hiding inside because it's hard to not like, it's hard to push yourself to get out sometimes, I'm sure.
But we made that choice, and part of the wonder of all of this and like the end of all the long journey and the pain is that I have my son and daughter outside in our
Mhm.
backyard where our
Mhm.
dogs can run around.
Mhm.
And with my partner, who I've been with on and off through our entire lives and all the
Mhm.
iterations of our lives, and the locusts are cooing in the middle of buzzing in the middle of summer, and my son's just like this.
The wonder is there. Yeah, that's fun to see their excitement. I did
Yeah,
an episode about traveling with your kids and just that in midlife travel, right? Because
yeah,
that's where we are, and just the excitement of seeing them take in all the little things that I feel like we as adults miss
miss.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's like taking that walk down that street you've walked down hundreds of times before and noticing the pine trees are all different colors.
yeah,
And it's like,
exactly.
"Holy shit, I've seen these a million times. How did I not notice this?" And really just taking it in. Like, nature is just full of some really cool things, new experiences, that awe, that child awe, it's everything.
I think at the end of the day, very long journey, a lot ups, a lot of downs. My kids are one explosively wonderful tip top of the tip top experiences. Part of that is the wonder, and
Mhm.
all of it's the gratitude. It's being in a
Yeah.
place where I can fully accept my journey brought me here. And now every second that I have them, I still get frustrated. This is not a perfect
You're
mom,
human. Yep, you're a human.
but I look at them and I am just blown away by how deeply in gratitude I am for where I am.
Yeah, and that'll continue. It's going to continue as they get older and you start to be able to share even more different experiences with them and see their excitement. I'm taking the boys on a trip to Florida to visit family and they haven't been yet. So they've got 8 million questions about the beaches and what it looks like. And, so I like that wanderlust. I'd like them to have that excitement. As you know, we go see my family in Colorado and we did Pikes Peak this past summer, and it was such a cool experience. We took the Cog Railroad up, and you're on top of the world up there. Like, you can literally see the next states over. And, you know, watching them kind of take it in. And on the way back down, they stopped the train, and we're like, why are they stopping the train? And they're like, if you wait and watch, there's a mother bear and her cub right off. So that was such a cool experience because they're in the wild, living on this mountain. Like, it was just so, so cool. Part of that memory, right? So
Mhm.
you're going to have, I want to just take a moment to touch base on your solo trip. Doing that, I think everybody should take a solo trip or two in their lifetime.
Jenny,
Yes, because that I think there's just so much to be learned on taking a solo trip. I'm capable. I can handle this. I can figure it out. I don't know. I feel like you're not on anybody else's timeline. You're on your timeline. I don't think you have to rely on somebody else to do those things. Some people are like, well, I want someone to travel with. Go by yourself. No one is stopping you. There are lots of places that are very safe
yeah,
that you can go that are just going to give you a new perspective on life
yeah,
and maybe what you want out of life.
yeah. I could do a whole hour just on grief trips and relationship trips and just trips to make your heart happy. I mean, if I start, I won't stop. So I won't go into that. I have a couple of girlfriends who are in their 30s. They're, kind of trying to figure out where life is. And you hit
Mhm.
40 and like really becoming a woman, even if you're very independent and strong headed, like we both are, and you're doing the work,
Yep.
every step of the journey is getting you to that point. But when you hit late 30s, early 40s, you just really become this different person.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to them that like most of what has fortified me and built my bones and built this house that I live in, right, are these trips. It's just feeling safe with yourself traveling,
Mhm.
trusting yourself is
Trusting
such
yourself.
a confidence builder to then
Yep.
walk into a boardroom or walk into, for me, a courtroom to
Mhm.
know that you are capable, walk into motherhood, to walk into
Yeah.
grief, you know?
To really face everything. I think it prepares you. So many women are taught, like you said, codependency, look for
Yeah.
a man, don't go too far from home. There are so many wonderful things out there that you can't learn in a textbook. You're not going to learn in a classroom.
Yeah.
And that's where travel comes in.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who has experienced loss? Like, what would your takeaway be for somebody who has experienced loss in the way that you have, maybe with losing your dad to suicide?
Find a community, find other people. It was very ironic. I walked into my hair cutter, and there are so many tie-ins. I won't even start. Again, another whole has to do with Aurora Borealis, my dad's death.
I
There's a
do
whole
remember you posting about that. It's yeah,
God,
yeah.
wild on the
He's
way
your
to my
That's your
wedding.
sign. Yeah. Yeah, I
Never, never.
remember.
I asked my dad for it on the way to my wedding. I'd never seen them. They were never in New York visible to the naked eye. 2 hours late leaving our house on the journey to Lake Placid to get married, we see the Aurora Borealis.
Goosebumps. Total goosebumps. Yeah.
What would I say? So community is really important. There was a woman that cut my hair who said, "You have to meet this other woman who also just lost her dad to suicide, pretty much the same age as you are." The
Oh,
next day,
okay.
someone else said, "I have this woman that you need to talk to. She just lost her dad to suicide." Two completely different people, unrelated, introduced me to the same person.
Oh,
Wild.
wow. Yeah.
She is really helpful. And I had a healing community in a village, right?
Mhm.
That I had already
Yeah.
if I hadn't been doing the work and built beautiful, intricate friendships around me, I wouldn't have had the support system. And I think that was really essential, right? That
Yeah.
and my therapist too.
Yeah.
She is a lifesaver for me. She has helped me build that scaffolding and the plastering of the walls and stuff. So really you can't anticipate grief, right? But you
Nope.
can anticipate that you're gonna have it because death taxes, right? You're not getting
It's
away from 'em.
guaranteed. Yep. Yeah. What would your takeaway be for moms starting this journey in their 40s?
Man, do the research. Don't let a doctor tell you what you know to be true. You are my friend Nate always says, you are the world's leading expert on you, right?
Yep.
That's it. You
Yep.
know when something doesn't feel right. There were times where I called my doctor and I was like, "Look, I have a bloody nose. It doesn't seem like this doesn't feel right to me. This wasn't one of the things I was warned about. Do I need to go to the hospital?" Trust it. Like use your resources to other moms. My poor sister-in-law, her daughter's a year older, 2 years older than my kids now, year and a half older. And I'm constantly like, "Hey, so and so has these red bumps on their face, and what should I do? And how much Excedrin can I give them? And can I give them this?" And, I reach out to people. I'm not afraid to ask questions, which I think is,
Yep.
let your intuition guide you, but
Mm.
always back it up with research. If you're
Mhm.
talking about getting your kids shots, do the research yourself. Read the
Mhm.
black warnings, right?
Yep.
That you can leave a pediatrician if that doesn't align with where you are. You can leave your obstetrician, by the way, in the middle of
Mhm.
20 weeks, 40 weeks. You can leave at
Mm.
the end if you want to. You
Yep.
can have the birth that you're looking for. And that
Within
was
parameters, right? Because safety. Right.
safety, right. But, like, if you're so we went to, the Carey House. We
Yep.
had a doula that helped us all the way through, and we took classes there, and it was so
Yep.
phenomenal because I had a birth plan that I walked into the hospital with that said, "Here are all the things that are wrong with my health or going on with my health. Here are my risk factors. I would like these 12 things." No, there's no I told the nurse going into the OR, I was like, "I'm so sorry, are you wearing perfume?" And she
Oh,
said,
yeah.
"Can you wash it off?"
Yeah, that's a no in the hospital. That's
Like, I was crazy, and I was like, "I'm so sorry. I have really sensitive, scent and whatever else, that's gonna make me sick."
yep.
I had a playlist that I came in. We had a speaker, right? Like, we had the birth. It didn't look exactly like I didn't get to labor very long. I had to have a
You're right, that's working within the parameters. Yes, I want these things, but I also understand if we
Yeah,
are a go, we need to go.
and
Yeah,
we were.
yeah.
My daughter decided to put her foot down and block her brother from being born at the
Okay,
11th
yeah,
hour.
that's a
So it was
problem.
it was a C-section when I didn't plan for it, but it was still beautiful
Yeah,
because,
it's not any
again,
less.
did my research, did
Yep,
was good with where I was, wanted safety to be the number one thing,
yep,
and
yep,
I think really trusting my gut through that, just being able to speak what you need and
yep,
trusting that that is because you need it is
yep.
number 1 for moms.
Yeah, it's like going in with a birth plan, but also understanding that there could be things or like you said that your So if her foot wasn't down, you would have had a vaginal delivery with twins.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like she's gonna have she's gonna be a tough one. She might have a little bit of mom's personality in there.
No, no way.
Oh, man. Well, I think today was wonderful. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story and really opening up and being vulnerable about what grief, us to health, and becoming a mom at 42 has looked like. And sharing your story has opened my eyes just to things I didn't even know, and I've known you for years. And I think it's really going to help other people who are navigating some of these tricky waters in life
Yeah.
and building that community and utilizing your supports and not being afraid to ask for help because we're all
Don't
going to need it.
And you know what's really interesting along the way, right? I have built most of my friends are 10 to 15 years older than I am.
That's
Um,
okay.
and and they were built on relationships in Los Angeles. One of the most magical things is that not the same two people didn't show up for everything in the same way, right? The moms that had already had kids showed up and were amazing when I first had kids. Hey, can we bring you food? Do you want us to
Mm-hmm.
go hold the babies while you're doing this? Do you want us to do that while you hold your babies? When my dad died, best friends flying in from other places to just support me and hold me.
Yep.
And when
Mm-hmm.
my first dog died, my best friend from that I met in LA, who was ironically from Medina,
All town.
he, grew up 5 towns away from mine here and met her there, but she flew back out to Los Angeles to sit with me and hold space for me, and it's really magical when you build relationships with beautiful people, and it will get you through everything. It
I
really
say
will.
that. I say that the people coming in to visit me when I was sick with cancer and showing up and, hanging cards at my door or just being there. It was just like that's what got me through. Without that, it would have been a lot harder. So,
Thank
yeah.
you. I'm so
Thank
grateful.
you. Yeah, I'm grateful for you too. And obviously, we'll talk more and I will see you. And we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Before we wrap up, I just want to share a quick reminder. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for therapy, medical advice, or mental health treatment. If you're struggling or need support, please reach out to a licensed professional or a trusted healthcare provider. Also, if you loved this podcast, don't be afraid to hit follow and share it with a friend, coworker, or family member. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.